Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. Breakdown of the stats. Let's have a look at the Kiwi teams and the Aussie teams to see where did things go right for those Kiwi sides that the Aussie sides were just lagging a bit behind, because I think most of us were probably a bit disappointed with the way the competition went. Obviously, as a Blues fan, I'm happy my side's in a final for a change. But 23-2 in terms of the victories for Kiwi sides against Aussie sides was more lopsided than most of us would have liked. The bookies had it right when the bookies had the top 5 finishers as the Kiwi sides and the Reds being like 6th. I think a lot of us thought, it would be a bit more tight than it was. Some people called it. Like I said, the bookies called it. Other people said it was going to be lopsided, and it proved to be lopsided. But where? Where are these teams different? We'll have a look at the stats. I've combined the 5 Aussie teams and the 5 Kiwi teams numbers together to give you a direct Australia and New Zealand kind of head-to-head comparison. Some areas are very even, and some areas are kind of lopsided. But yeah, you guys can let me know your thoughts. How do you think these teams line up? Where do you think the key differences are? And which stats of these do you think reflect that, if any? Remember, these stats are just kind of surface-level stats that we have to draw our own conclusions from. Some stats that are pretty interesting. Set piece, at least the initial success rate. Line out, 87% each. There's no difference between Aussie and Kiwi sides in able to complete their line out throws. Exactly the same. Scrum, 92% each. There's no difference in the scrum completion rate. Now, what happens after the line out, after the scrum, what kind of magic set play do they run? That's another story. But the initial completion rate is the same for both sides of the Tasman. Mauls, the Kiwi sides have had a few more, 3.7 a game, 3.2 for the Aussies. Not a huge difference, but that is a bit of a difference. Goal kicking, pretty similar. Conversion rates, 70% for the Aussies, 74% for the Kiwis. Aussies, 42% for the penalties, 33% for the Kiwis. Penalties being kicked weren't a big thing in this competition, and the conversion rates are within a few percent of each other. So neither of those goal kicking rates are that flash, actually. Neither side of the Tasman will be very happy for kicking below 80%, but there you go. Penalties conceded, pretty even. The Aussies concede slightly fewer penalties, 11.2 to the Kiwis, 11.7. Pretty tight stuff. Nothing too drastic so far that would tell you there's a heap of difference between the sides. The Aussie sides have more possession, 53% to the Kiwi sides, 47. Again, not a huge difference, but to be honest, I've looked at stats enough in my life to know that often it's the side that plays with less ball, at least down here, this part of the world, that actually ends up winning the game. Sides are quite happy to play without the ball and hit you when you drop the ball. Counter-attacking rugby, broken play, that kind of thing. And set play is also key. Carries is pretty close. 116 carries a game for the Aussie teams, 110 for the Kiwis. Pretty tight, nothing much in that. The Aussie teams have got more possession, so you expect them to make a few more carries. Likewise, passes, 155 to 157 is pretty even, but interestingly, the Kiwi sides are actually a little bit higher. Despite having less overall ball, they are making more passes. Basic conclusion that I would draw in my mind there is that the speed of the play is a little bit higher. Maybe there's a little bit less ball sitting there at the back of the ruck waiting for the number 9 to make his mind up, and the ball's already out there just being fired off into play. Kicking rates, interestingly, the Kiwi sides are again higher, likewise with the passes. So 19.2 kicks from hand per game for the Kiwi sides, 17.5 for the Aussie sides. Now, that's all kind of kicks. That's kicking, from your own 22 to get out of dodge, but it's also attacking grubber kicks through, trying to get the ball into some space, again to cause havoc in opposition lines. I think that's been a large part of New Zealand rugby for quite some time, right? We don't like sides who are able to just set defensive walls against us. We like to sometimes kick the ball through. Moonga is brilliant at it. Severis is really good at it. A lot of the Kiwi players are pretty good. Zahn Sullivan for the Blues actually proved to be a pretty adept kicker from the back. So Geordie Barrett's got a big old boot. More kicks, more passes, less possession for the New Zealand sides. Turnovers won is also higher for the New Zealand sides. They average 7.5 turnovers a game, 5.9 for the Aussie sides. So key at the breakdown. And the ruck success rate kind of matches that with 93% for the New Zealand sides, 89% for the Aussie sides. So the Kiwi sides are able to prevent turnovers being done on them and win more of their own, which I believe leads to a stat like this one, the clean breaks, which is one of the most lopsided ones amongst the two, because the New Zealand sides are not quite double, but it's getting close. 12 clean breaks a game to 7.8. And I genuinely believe a lot of those come from turnover ball. A lot of those come from kicks. You've seen Sevu Reece do it, man. Like when he kicks that infield ball through to somebody and the person who gets the ball is just in open space. Sometimes it's just, they crack through the phases. The Chiefs did it against the Tars in that last round. They would go through phase after phase after phase on the right side of the field, flick it out left, and Wainui gets a clean break because he's out in the open. So it can be generated in a number of ways. But 12 to 7.8 is one of the most lopsided ones. And what that also means is that the run meters is well in favour of the New Zealand sides. 525 is the average for the Kiwis, 409 for the Aussies. Now those numbers are pretty decent. In the scheme of things, you can get games that go up to 800. You can get games that stick around 100 or 200 run meters. So 4 and 500 are both pretty decent, but you really need to compare that against the amount of carries each side has had. And 4 run meters per carry is like the magic number that shows you're generally getting go forward ball and causing opposition defense problems. No problems for the Kiwis. Average is 4.8. 4.8 meters per carry. Really nice, juicy number. The Aussie sides are at 3.5, which again suggests that they're struggling to kind of get that breakthrough with the defense. And that's also reflected in the tackle success rates. 87 for the Kiwi sides, where like around 90 is kind of a gold standard. 87's getting close. With the Aussies, they're at 80%, whereas anything below 80 is starting to get, tackling optional. And across the 5 weeks, a few times the Aussie sides did drop average into the 70s. And like I said, some sides were better than others. The Force were generally really good, whereas the Waratahs were generally pretty poor. But just as a collective, that's how the numbers have come out. The Kiwi sides, though, did have to make more tackles because they've had less ball. 133 tackles to 115. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, man. I found that it kind of reflects what we've seen on the field between the sides. I was kind of hoping that over time we would see that the initial shock of maybe not playing the Kiwi sides for some time was changing over the course of the 5 rounds. I don't think I quite found that when I looked round by round by round. Was the Aussie tackling percentage going higher? Was the Kiwi tackle percentage going lower? Not really. Not really. It did show some improvement, like defenders beaten. The Aussies got a bit higher. It kind of got close in round 4, but then round 5 it went back to a lot more for the Kiwi sides. The overall trending is both sides kind of going up with a little bit of a blip in round 4. Clean breaks, again, it's round 4 that's the optimistic one for the Aussies, where they actually topped it, but from round 1 to round 2 the New Zealand sides managed to get more. And likewise, tackling percentage, round 4 seems to be the one with the Aussie sides, and that was my favourite round of the competition, where things were quite even, but then you go back to round 5 and things kind of revert. So it would have been really nice to see trending in the right direction. I'm not sure we got that, but it's over 5 games. It's a pretty small sample size to draw too many conclusions from. But yeah, it was certainly an interesting look. Thank you to my wife who helped me compile the data. I extracted it all, and she did some whiz-bang stuff in Excel to make it more visually friendly for me. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts. 5.5 tries a game to 2.8. Bit lopsided. Let's hope that when the Wallabies get together and the All Blacks get together later on in the year, things are a bit more kind of even. I think across 5 different teams, maybe the gap is still a bit too much. But when you're just looking at the combined talent of the Wallabies and the All Blacks, hopefully it'll be a lot closer than that. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Do like the video if you're interested in the kind of breakdown. Leave a comment. What did you guys think? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Think about subscribing to Patreon. That helps out. Give me time to sit there extracting all this bleeding data. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.